through chemistry. That's why certain kisses linger in the mind long after they've ended. It's not about technique or even about passion. It's about the neurological fingerprint that moment leaves behind. But there's something even deeper happening here, something that science can measure but not entirely explain. Kissing activates the limbic system, the emotional center of the brain. It blurs the line between thought and feeling. It invites us to step out of self, consciousness, and into pure presence. For a few seconds, time seems to stop, and awareness narrows to the warmth of breath, the rhythm of touch, the exchange of energy between two people. And that is where the power lies. From a physiological perspective, this moment of connection creates synchronization, heart rates align, breathing patterns mirror, and even subtle hormonal rhythms begin to attune. The body, in its wisdom, recognizes safety and belonging. That's why a genuine kiss has the ability to calm anxiety or dissolve tension. It is, at its essence, the body's reassurance that it is seen, wanted, and safe. Now, from a urological or medical standpoint, this process is profoundly significant, especially in women. A woman's body often responds to emotional connection before physical arousal. Her nervous system requires a sense of security to fully engage the pathways that lead to desire. This isn't emotional sensitivity. It's biological design. When she feels emotionally attuned, oxytocin levels rise, cortisol levels drop, and the parasympathetic nervous system. The body's relaxation mode takes over. Only then does her body open up to deeper intimacy, both emotionally and physically. That's why the power of kissing cannot be reduced to mere seduction. It's an act of emotional calibration. It tells her nervous system, you're safe here, you can let go. And when that message is received, every aspect of intimacy, emotional, psychological, and physical, begins to flow naturally. Philosophically speaking, a kiss is also a microcosm of relationship dynamics. It's not a one-sided act. It's an exchange that thrives on sensitivity and awareness. You cannot rush it. You cannot control it. You must feel it, read it, respond to it. Just as in communication, where listening matters as much as speaking, in intimacy, responsiveness is everything. That's why the most memorable kisses often come from those who are present, those who aren't performing but connecting. And that brings us to a critical point. Emotional presence is what transforms physical contact into intimacy. You can't fake presence. The body knows when attention is divided. It knows when affection is mechanical. But it also knows when it's being cherished. In that recognition, it softens, opens, and receives. That's the psychological bridge between affection and arousal, presence. When one partner is fully present, they give permission for the other to be vulnerable. There's also something sacred about that exchange. Every kiss carries unspoken meaning. It's a gesture that can apologize without words, reassure without promises, or express love when speech falls short. That's why across all cultures and ages, the kiss has endured, not just as a symbol of romance, but as a universal language of emotional truth. We often underestimate how deeply this affects women, because the emotional and physical in her are never truly separate. Her mind is her gateway to her body, so when a kiss communicates tenderness, patience, and genuine care, it awakens not just her senses but her emotions. It tells her she's not being touched for pleasure alone, she's being understood. And that understanding is what builds lasting desire. It's what keeps connection alive beyond the initial spark, because chemistry might ignite attraction, but understanding sustains intimacy. The real power of kissing isn't in the heat of the moment. It's in the emotional message it delivers. So when you think about kissing as a way to deepen connection, don't just think of it as a romantic gesture. Think of it as a conversation between nervous systems, a sacred exchange of trust and emotion, biology and meaning. It's not about doing something right or wrong. It's about being deeply attuned to what that moment asks of you. And perhaps that's the greatest insight science and psychology can give us about intimacy. It isn't something you create, it's something you allow. When you slow down enough to feel, when you honor the chemistry nature built within us, you discover that a kiss is never just a kiss. It's the beginning of safety, the foundation of trust, and the most powerful reminder that love, when understood through both mind and body, is the language we were designed to speak. So the next time you kiss someone you love, remember, you're not just touching lips. You're speaking directly to their nervous system, to their memory, to the part of them that longs to feel seen and safe. And when you kiss with that awareness, you're not just expressing love, you're creating it. If there's one truth that underlies every form of genuine intimacy, it's that emotion always precedes sensation. You can't touch a person deeply without first reaching them emotionally. You can't awaken desire if the heart feels distant, unsafe, or unseen. And this is where so many people misunderstand the nature of connection. They chase technique, the how of intimacy, without understanding the emotional environment that gives those gestures meaning. Because before the lips meet, before the hands touch, there is an invisible field of energy being built between two people. It's the atmosphere of emotional safety, and in that atmosphere, everything else either flourishes or fails. A woman's body, by design, responds to what her mind and emotions interpret as safety. It's not manipulation. It's biology. The female nervous system, more than anything else, seeks coherence, an alignment between what she feels and what she experiences. When there's emotional tension, when there's uncertainty or disconnection, her body instinctively guards itself. The parasympathetic nervous system, which controls relaxation and arousal, cannot fully engage if she senses emotional distance or lack of respect. This is why true intimacy can never be forced. It has to be invited. Now, think about what it means to create that invitation. It's not about saying the perfect words or performing romantic gestures. It's about presence. It's about showing up with emotional steadiness. A woman feels most drawn to a man whose energy is consistent, whose attention is undivided, whose presence communicates, "You are safe here. You don't have to perform. You can just be." That kind of emotional grounding opens her, not just mentally but physically, because her body interprets that safety as permission to relax and connect. And that is why foreplay doesn't start with touch. It starts with tone. The tone of your voice, the softness of your gaze, the patience in your timing, these are the signals her nervous system reads long before you ever move closer. If those signals are inconsistent, if she feels rushed, objectified, or unseen, her mind disengages and so does her body. Intimacy is not something you can demand. It's something you create through trust. When we look at this from a psychological lens, it becomes even clearer. Emotional safety is what allows vulnerability, and vulnerability is the doorway to intimacy. Without it, every touch feels shallow, every kiss feels performative. But when vulnerability is present, when both people drop their defenses, the kiss transforms. It's no longer just an exchange of affection. It's an exchange of truth. You're not trying to get something, you're trying to give something. You're offering reassurance, affection, and the unspoken message that says, "I see you, I choose you, I'm here with you." There's a certain dignity in that kind of connection. It requires maturity, emotional intelligence, patience, and empathy. And while these qualities might not sound passionate at first, they're actually the foundation of lasting desire. Because passion that isn't grounded in safety burns fast and fades. But passion built on emotional understanding grows deeper with time. That's what separates attraction from intimacy. Attraction happens instantly. Intimacy is cultivated through trust. From a physiological standpoint, this is not just poetic, it's measurable. When a woman feels emotionally connected, her body releases oxytocin, the same hormone that fosters bonding between a mother and child. This hormonal shift doesn't just create affection. It literally changes the way her body responds to touch. Her heartbeat slows, her breathing deepens, her muscles relax. Her body becomes receptive, not as an act of submission, but as an act of trust. and that trust is everything. This is why emotional context matters more than any technique you can learn. You can know where to kiss, how long to linger, but if the emotional current isn't right, it won't land the way you hope. Because for her, intimacy is not a performance, it's an experience, and that experience begins with how you make her feel. Not just about you, but about herself in your presence. Does she feel valued, respected, and emotionally safe? Or does she feel like she's being pursued for what she can offer rather than who she is? The answer to that question determines everything that follows. There's also a philosophical dimension to this idea because emotional safety is really another way of describing attunement. To be attuned to someone means to sense their energy, to rate their silence, to listen beneath their words. It's a rare skill, but it's the essence of deep connection. When you're attuned, you don't just see the person, you feel them. You notice when their eyes light up, when their shoulders tense, when their breathing shifts. You respond not with logic, but with empathy. That's the kind of communication that bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the heart. And here's what's fascinating. When emotional attunement exists, even the simplest physical gestures become powerful. A touch on the hand, a soft word, a glance, these small things can feel electric because they're grounded in emotional resonance. But without that resonance, even the most skillful technique feels empty. Intimacy, then, isn't about stimulation, it's about synchronization. When two emotional worlds align, the body follows naturally. In practical terms, this means slowing down, listening more, being curious, not controlling. It means understanding that the goal isn't to impress, it's to connect. You don't need to prove desire, you need to embody respect. You don't need to chase intensity, you need to build comfort. Because comfort creates openness, and openness invites passion that feels authentic, not forced. Emotional intimacy doesn't remove excitement, it deepens it. It allows two people to explore each other freely, knowing that the bond between them is safe enough to handle vulnerability, curiosity, and even imperfection. When you realize that, you stop trying to perform and start trying to understand. You become a student of connection rather than pursuer of pleasure. And that's the shift that changes everything. When your energy says, I'm here, I'm present, I'm listening, she relaxes into that energy. Her body, her emotions, her trust. All of it responds to the authenticity of that presence. Because the truth is, you can't fake emotional safety. You can only embody it. So before you think about where to touch, think about how you make her feel. Because the heart must open before the body ever will. And when the heart feels safe, every gesture becomes meaningful, every kiss becomes powerful, and intimacy becomes not just physical connection, but emotional communion. There's a quiet power in the forehead kiss, something deeply human, profoundly emotional, and often overlooked in the conversation about intimacy. It doesn't carry the overt sensuality of a kiss on the lips, nor the charged energy of one on the neck. And yet it holds something far more foundational, trust. A forehead kiss communicates a language that bypasses the body and speaks directly to the soul. It says, you're safe, you're seen, you matter. And for many women, that message is far more intimate than any physical touch. When you place a kiss on a woman's forehead, you're not simply making contact with her skin, you're making contact with her emotional center. That spot just between the eyes and above the brow has long been regarded as the seat of intuition, of deeper knowing. In ancient cultures, it's been called the third eye, the space through which emotional understanding flows. But even if we strip away all spiritual language and look at it from a physiological or psychological perspective, the meaning remains. A forehead kiss reaches a part of her that words can't touch. It's a gesture that carries profound symbolism. The forehead kiss is an offering of calmness in a world that constantly demands intensity. It's a moment where affection becomes protection, where passion transforms into presence.